Morning, everyone. Let's see if we get this camera set up. Okay. So, I thought I would come out with you a little informational video. Um, I get asked this kind of question every once in a while, and recently, I think Kathy asked me, a couple of people have asked me, is it possible to gain muscle and lose fat at the same time? And it's kind of a difficult question because if you read the literature, you really have to read it from the perspective of who are they talking about. I mean, are they talking about, someone who is a fit athlete with like 10% body fat? Or are they talking about the average person? Or are they talking about a obese person? I mean, it's different, right? So I guess the first thing that I want to say that is yes, it's possible. Even at a calorie deficit, it's possible to build muscle while you lose fat, or even lose weight while you gain muscle. But it's not easy. It's not easy when you're at a calorie deficit because you don't have a lot of those nutrients floating around to put to use. So, when you exert your muscles, when you come to repair and rebuild, those nutrients aren't necessarily abundant around. So it's not as easy as if you were at a calorie surplus. That's obvious. If you're at a calorie surplus of 200 to 500 calories a day, and you're working out hard in the gym with heavy weights, you're going to build muscle. At a calorie deficit, it's a lot slower. I mean, let's be honest. It's not easy. But there are a couple of situations that make it easier. The first one is if you are not accustomed to weightlifting. If you're in your first 6 months to 1 year of lifting weights consistently, regularly, with the intent of building muscle, these are your newbie gains. And your newbie gains, that's like, it depends on the person, 4 to 10 pounds of muscle that you can put on in that first year. And again, it's slower if you're a calorie deficit, but that push that you receive from working out when you first start is still going to happen. So even at a calorie deficit, if you're a newbie, you can gain muscle. The other situation is if you're obese or morbidly obese and you're at a calorie deficit. Remember, fat is an energy source, okay? So if you're fat and you're working out, you've got ample amounts of nutrients to build that muscle. As long as you're eating something, you can build muscle. Okay, because you're not people. I think Kathy read on the Obesity Help Forum that if you're in a calorie deficit, you can't build muscle. And that's not true if you're obese, because you're literally covered in fuel, okay? So that's fine. Even at a deficit, even at an extreme deficit, you still have a lot of fuel. But you have to make sure you have enough floating around, that you're eating that high protein. And again, when you're at a calorie deficit, you really have to eat the high protein diet, and that's because, your body, before those proteins go to your muscles, they're a fuel source. So if you're not eating a lot of protein, then the protein that you ingest is just going to be used for fuel. It's not going to be used for muscle building. So, you want to stick to a balanced diet. You get some carbs, some fats, and lots of protein. Because not all that protein is for your muscles. A lot of it is just for you. Right? So, so when you're morbidly obese, you got ample fuel. Now, as you lose weight, okay, as you go from, 100 pounds overweight to 50 pounds overweight to 20 pounds overweight, your calorie deficit is going to have to be less. You're going to have to eat more food but still be at a deficit in order to achieve that, muscle gain and weight loss at the same time. And that's because that fat, as you lose weight, it becomes less and less available to your body. You know, remember your fat is stored in basically 3 different locations. It's stored like the visceral. Is it the visceral? Yeah, I forget the names of it, but it's stored like really like closely around your organs, and that's usually the first fat to go, because it's right around your organs. So it's readily your liver. The transit time is not a lot. The second place is sort of in your abdominal area, and the third place is attached to your skin. That's subcutaneous fat. Now, that order, the organ fat, abdominal fat, subcutaneous fat, each of those is accessible to a different extent. So, the organ fat is the first to go when you lose weight, so that's quick. Abdominal, that's a little bit slower, and the subcutaneous fat is where you really have to push the limits of your nutrition and your fitness to get at. And that's where a lot of the literature that you read is focused on. People who are, not obese, they just have a lot of subcutaneous fat. Yeah. So what do I recommend in terms of nutrition and fitness in order to achieve this muscle gain and fat loss at the same time? Well, it really depends on every person. Depending on where they're coming from in terms of fitness, their body weight, their metabolism, it varies. So I'm not going to give like nutritional guidelines, but you basically have to keep your calories low. And you have to play with it. You have to see what works. You might have to go a little bit lower, a little bit higher, in order to achieve optimal results. For carbs, I know a lot of people are really into this like ultra low carb thing, and that's fine. But just be aware when you're doing that ultra low, like I'm talking like 40 grams per day kind of thing. Your muscle building is going to be it's going to be suppressed even more because you need that. I recommend people who are even on the moderately carbed diets, like 100, 120 grams per day, try and shift those carbohydrates to after your workout. That's when they'll be put to better use. Because when your muscles get strained, the first thing you want to do is repair them, and having carbs and glycogen available to them, that's like the quickest way to do that. What else I want to say? You have to work out with heavy weights. I see a lot of people in the gym, they don't use weights that are challenging to them. To put it bluntly, they take the easy way out, right? They'll use weights that they can do and not look silly, or not look like they're dying or whatever. But you really have to be. There's a difference between exhausting your muscles, which is using a light weight for high reps, and straining your muscles, where you're using a low weight to failure. Those are 2 different things, and you really want to be at that straining the muscle, putting that muscle in a state where it needs to not just refuel, its energy source, the glycogen that's stored in it, but it has to repair and build the muscle tissues that you have ripped apart, like torn, literally. So in order to do that, you have to use heavy weights, like to your capacity. Rep ranges are kind of, whatever, 8 to 12. On your bigger movements, maybe, 5 or 6 repetitions per set for 3 or 4 sets. Yeah. And more importantly, too, is you have to progressively increase the weight that you're lifting from month to month. I mean, if you're lifting the same weight you did a month ago, you're not working hard enough. You're not straining those muscles anymore. They're accustomed to that load, and they're not going to be building anymore. So you have to progressively, every month, increase the weights. You know, even if it's 2 pounds, 10 pounds, 20 pounds, whatever it is, you have to be progressively increasing the weight every month. And it's hard to push yourself to do that. Even me, I struggle with that because it's, you know, you're not always constant. Like when you go into a gym on a particular day, you know, you may lift 50 pounds and it feels heavy, and then you go back the following week and it's nothing. Or the reverse will happen. So that's why I say every month, just check yourself that you're increasing the weight. Don't be one of those people that's in the gym for a year and they're still lifting the weight they did on day one, okay? Because that's not getting you anywhere. That's just cardio. That's not muscle building. If your body allows, you know, you definitely recommend the bigger compound movements, the squat, the deadlift, the bench press, and the overhead press. Those are the 4 big movements that will give you the most full body muscle gain. They're hard to do, they're challenging. When you're first starting out, I mean, you're not going to be able to do a lot of weight. It's going to be more mechanical, getting used to them. And that's okay. Just follow up with some isolation exercise to make sure you're getting that intensity that you need. But don't forget the compound movement. I mean, that's, especially if you're short on time, you're going to get a lot more out of those things than you were from doing isolation movements. Yeah. I mean, when I started out, I mean, I had back problems, and I was still, you know, pretty well overweight, and my energy level was kind of not great because of my liver problems. So, I mean, I started out just using, you know, machines and a little bit of free weights. And now I've progressed more into those larger compound movements. And that's fine too, but it's slower. You know, if you're able to do the compound movements, do them. Get a trainer, pay for 1 session, and say, look, those are the 4 moves that I want to learn. Okay? You can do some other stuff. I mean, there's other exercises that are great to do. Just remember that your bulk of your muscle is on your backside. Your legs, your butt, your back, your triceps. So you should be doing, you know, 75% of your exercises on your backside, because that's where you have the most muscle and the most ability to gain muscle. I think that's all I really wanted to say on that. I don't know how long this video is, but if you have any questions, I mean, feel free to ask me. If you want me to review your nutrition, or give you some kind of an idea of what to do in the gym, you know, shoot me an email on Facebook, or you can comment below and say contact me and give me like an email address or whatever. Yeah, so that's it, guys. I am on my vacation. Not really vacation. I'm just house sitting. I've got, let's turn this around. Oh yes, caught her at the perfect time. She's cleaning herself. Hey Sierra, say hello to the peoples. Say hello to the peoples. Hi. So anyway, get up there, get your fitness in, and I'll see you guys later. Bye.